In the heart of the South African countryside, where the golden sun kissed the rolling hills of the Eastern Cape, a boy was born in 1918 in the small village of Mvezo. His birth name was Rolihlahla Mandela, a name that meant pulling the branch of a tree, but in a deeper sense, it also meant troublemaker. No one knew then how fitting that name would be. Raised in the traditions of the Thembu people, young Rolihlahla grew up herding cattle and listening to the elders speak around the fire about justice, leadership, and the dreams of a free people. His father, a local chief and counselor to the Thembu royal family, died when Mandela was just 9. After his death, Mandela was taken in by the acting king of the Thembu nation, Chief Jongintaba Dalindyebo, where he was exposed to leadership, diplomacy, and tribal law. But destiny had greater plans for this quiet, observant boy. Mandela was one of the first in his village to attend school, where a teacher gave him the English name Nelson, a common practice in colonial schools. He went on to study at Healdtown, a prestigious mission school, and later at Fort Hare University, one of the few higher education institutions for Black South Africans at the time. At Fort Hare, he began to question the injustices around him. His first act of rebellion came when he participated in a student protest. For this, he was expelled, a glimpse of the defiance that would later define him. To escape an arranged marriage, Mandela fled to Johannesburg, the industrial heart of South Africa. There, the realities of apartheid struck him full force. He saw Black South Africans crammed into townships, humiliated by laws that denied them dignity, freedom, and voice. He worked as a mine guard, then as a law clerk, and eventually studied law, becoming one of the first Black lawyers in Johannesburg. In the bustling city of Johannesburg, Mandela met fellow young revolutionaries, including Walter Sisulu and Oliver Tambo. Together, they joined the African National Congress, ANC, a political organization fighting for the rights of Black South Africans. Mandela soon rose through its ranks. In 1944, he helped form the ANC Youth League, a more radical wing pushing for mass action and civil disobedience against apartheid. Mandela began to believe that peaceful protest alone would not be enough to defeat such an oppressive system. He became a symbol of resistance, organizing boycotts, leading strikes, and challenging unjust laws. He was arrested multiple times, but each time he emerged stronger, his resolve hardened. By the 1960s, the apartheid regime had tightened its grip. Peaceful protesters were massacred in Sharpeville. The ANC was banned. Mandela went underground and co-founded the ANC's armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation. They began to sabotage government installations, careful not to target people, but to send a message: enough was enough. In 1962, after returning from a secret trip abroad to gather support, Mandela was arrested. In 1964, during the Rivonia trial, he delivered his most famous speech: "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against Black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." He was sentenced to life in prison. For 27 years, Nelson Mandela was imprisoned. Most of them spent in a small, damp cell on Robben Island. The cell had no bed, just a mat. He did hard labor in a lime quarry under the scorching sun. He was allowed one visit every 6 months, and a letter only once every 3 months. But they could not imprison his mind. Nelson Mandela read, studied, and earned a law degree through correspondence. He mentored younger prisoners. His dignity, patience, and refusal to hate his captors earned him the quiet respect of both inmates and some guards. He became a legend, a symbol of hope, not just in South Africa, but around the world. By the 1980s, South Africa was under growing pressure. International sanctions, internal uprisings, and economic decline shook the apartheid government. The world was demanding free Nelson Mandela. Secret negotiations began between Mandela and the government. He insisted that he would only be freed if the ANC was unbanned and apartheid dismantled. Finally, on February 11, 1990, at the age of 71, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison hand in hand with his then-wife Winnie. He raised his fist in victory, not with bitterness, but with grace and purpose. Mandela led negotiations that would end apartheid. His leadership was marked not by vengeance, but by reconciliation. In 1994, in South Africa's first multiracial democratic election, millions of people lined up to vote. Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president. In office, he prioritized national healing. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, allowing victims and perpetrators of apartheid-era crimes to confront the past. He worked to unite a divided country, even donning the jersey of the national rugby team, once a symbol of white supremacy, to rally all South Africans behind one dream. Mandela stepped down after one term, a rare act in a continent plagued by leaders who clung to power. He devoted his later years to charity, HIV/AIDS awareness, and education through the Nelson Mandela Foundation. He passed away on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. But his legacy lives on in every person who believes in justice, in every leader who chooses forgiveness over hate, in every country that chooses unity over division. Nelson Mandela was not a saint. He was a man, flawed, determined, brave, and deeply human. And perhaps that's why his story resonates so deeply. He didn't wait to be perfect to make a difference. He simply walked, step by step, toward the ideal of a better world. As he titled his own autobiography, it was indeed a long walk to freedom, and it continues through us.